कुछ करने की जरूरत नहीं
आप लोग जाओ ना, आप नहीं जाएंगे तो हम कपड़े उतार देंगे, आप लोग जाओ।
अम्मा हम ऐसा
there will be a direct threat to Chinese interest in ASEAN, a Chinese influence. Because the way money has flown in, the way people have started doing it, the way so-called social leaders have emerged from nowhere. See, these kind of such big groups, which claim of having more than 20,000 volunteers, they cannot work without money. Who's paying for them? Somebody must be paying for them.
Absolutely.
20,000 volunteers cannot. I've seen it myself. You go to a village, catch hold of a terrorist, these women will come and start removing their clothes, start snatching the weapons of the security forces. So, as a soldier, you see they are removing their weapons and they start saying this guy is raped us. Somebody will click a photograph. So, this kind of embarrassing thing. Later on, we got to know that this terrorist was sitting with Money Minister in his own car. But again, the question is why central agencies are not being allowed to investigate. Recently, I reached at MPTC Pangai. Then Mirapabi didn't allow them to go inside. Because Kuki or Metis, both of them have to stay in the same state for long. My association with Manipur started in 2004 when I was posted there. Initially, that time Assam Rifles was not part of, they haven't started moving to Manipur. So it was entire helm of affairs was under 57 Mountain Dew. So we were part of 44 Brigade, which was initially in Bishnupur. Then we moved to a place called as Sugnu. Then we moved to a place called as Sajik Tampak. So we were kept on moving and we were clearing the area. Situation in Manipur at that time was bad. And there were areas which were declared as liberated zones by these Meitei terrorists. So when I talk about Sajik Tampak and Sugnu area, so Sugnu was a place, and Sugnu was in helm of affairs even recently also, where a large number of Kuki villages were burnt. So it was almost prohibited for anybody to go ahead of Sugnu unless they have a permission of these Meitei insurgent groups. Area ahead of Sugnu, then the mountains start, and as the mountains start, there is a valley which is called as Sajik Tampak. Tampak means valley in Manipuri. So Sajik Tampak was a valley and constituting about 8 villages in that area. And that area was declared as a liberated zone of the terrorists. Each and every terrorist group, whether it is UNLF, whether it is PLA, whether it is PREPA, KCP, all of them had their headquarters in Sajik Tampak. All of them had their training centers in Sajik Tampak. And they were running proper darbar sort of things. When we cleared that area, we got to know that at that point of time, even chief ministers used to go to Sajik Tampak with cars, trucks full of cash to give it to them. So that was the situation in 2004. Initially, BSF tried to clear it. They couldn't clear it. And then we moved in. And almost after 2 years of efforts, we were able to clear the entire area, establish our post, and settle down over there. That was the time when, at the same time, peace process started with the Kuki groups. And suspension of operations agreement was signed with 8 of the Kuki groups. So we were also instrumental in signing peace with them because they were also in the same area. So the association with Manipur went on for quite long time. It was close to 4 years. And been in that area, in the area of Sugnu, in the area of Churachandpur, in the area of Old Samtal, New Samtal, Tengnopal, and Bishnupur. So, in a nutshell, since we were moving, we were not located at one place. So, saw entire of the sum of affairs. We saw the entire Manipur, how the things are happening. So that has been part of my association with them. And since then, I've remained in touch with the locals. I had a lot of Manipuri friends. They kept on Kuki, Meitei, everybody. So remained in touch. Manipur is burning. First of all, we have to understand, before we talk about history, we have to talk about the false narratives which are being built. Like people are saying that Kukis are not the original settlers of Manipur. They came from outside. Now, Kukis came in the 19th century when Britishers were already occupying Rangoon and all these areas. At that time, Myanmar, Manipur, Nagaland, India, it was entirely part of British territory, and Manipur was not a separate state or part of India at all. There was no border. Manipur was very freely connected to Myanmar. So this Kukichin community was not only spread in Manipur, they were spread in Myanmar. So there is a belt. When you talk about the entire belt from the Irrawaddy and going all along the southern Manipur and going to the Mizoram and going up to Chittagong. So if you see this belt, Cookies were occupying these hills all over the side. So they were not bought in by the Britishers. We have got, like, I've been to certain villages, old villages, where we saw the monoliths which were raised by the cookies in those villages in 13th century and 14th century. So if cookies were bought in by the Britishers, who erected those monoliths? So these are historical examples which nobody wants to talk about. I agree to the fact that it was the Britishers who brought in Christianity, because these cookie people earlier they used to follow the tribal region, the kind of naturalistic region. Still, when I was posted in these New Samtar areas, I met a few of the villagers in far-flung areas who are still following the naturalist religion. And when you go to the remote cookie villages, their Christianity is a hybrid Christianity. You will be surprised to know, traditionally nobody carries out a sacrifice in a church. Nobody gives any kind of like vegetables, fruits, animals, hen and all, gives it to the church. But cookies do it. Nobody dances in the church. Cookie people dance in the church because they have mixed their original naturalistic religion with the Christianity. So as now we come back to the history. People say that history goes back to the Mahabharata time when Rukmini was from Manipur, and all those kind of historical facts are there. Indeed, there are old temples in Manipur which are dating back to Mahabharata time, and all those things are there. And indeed, the valley part has been inhabited by a very strong community. Even the Manipuri, the royal family, they also trace back their roots somewhere in 16th century. So the history is very old. But the history of Meiteis as well as the Nagas, as well as the tribals, other tribals, is also as old as the Meiteis, because they have been into the hills. Earlier, they never used to come to the plain areas. Now they started coming to the plain areas. History is like that. Now, in the current context of the Manipur, so why very basic reason why this clash has started? I had a document where we saw the old census data of Manipur, where the tribals constitute about 70%. And people in the valley, they constitute about 30% of the total population. Now, what has started happening? The valley area has more resources, has agricultural land, arable land, has waters, has areas to carry out fisheries, everything. So when these things started happening, so naturally when there are more number of resources, plus this was the communication center. Imphal was the de facto communication center for the Britishers also. So the population of Imphal, population of valley area, it naturally increased. And since it was the main communication center, so people who were staying in the valley area, their power also increased. You'll be surprised to know, except a couple of options, couple of names, since independence, and Manipur has always been ruled by Meiteis because they are dominant. Now they have become 53%. But if you see the corresponding area, the valley area is barely 30% of the total Manipur state. So 30% area, you have about 53, 54%, 55% people staying. And rest 70% area, you have about 45% people staying. So these tribal people are staying in the hills. Meitei people need more land. They need more land to stay. They need more land to carry out agriculture and all. So they came up, okay, let's include Meiteis into ST, scheduled tribes. Because as per the Forest Act 1961, only a tribal can stay in the forest. Only a tribal can buy and sell the land in the forest. People who are non-tribals cannot go and stay there. So what they did, they included Meiteis into ST so that they can go and buy the lands. And after this cookie people and other people, they started feeling threatened. Another thing which I wanted to talk about, since if you see the constituency, the entire structure of the Manipur Assembly, out of 60 seats, 40 seats are reserved for these Meitei areas, dominated areas, and 40 MLAs are Meitei MLAs. So they are already enjoying a 2/3 majority. They can pass any order they want. They recently passed a Forest Act, as per which they started evicting people from their areas in Manipur. Cookie people who were staying into their villages, and this was the main trigger point. By the way, the violence started from this Forest Act only. They started evicting people from their respective villages. Cookie said, "Bhai, we have been staying here for last 100 years, 200 years. Who are you to evict from us?" No, no, no. As per new forest act, you have to get away from us. So they came out in protest. And the first act of violence which was recorded, it was on 29th of April, where they came out in Churachandpur and they burnt one of the forest department office. It was not against Meitei at all. However, what I've got to know, I've yet to confirm this information, but however, I got to know that forest department officials, they were all Meiteis. They were staying in a nearby locality called Turbung. Few of them were bashed, few of them were beaten. So they went back to their locality. And on 3rd of May, when the solidarity rally was taking place in Churachandpur, they came and burned the Anglo-Cookie Friendship Gate, which was considered very holy for the cookies. Like, I've been to Churachandpur, these guys consider it so holy that they come and do the offerings at this gate. They put their vegetables, they even put sacrifice the chicken at this gate. So it is considered some kind of auspicious for them. So this gate was burnt. And entire series of violence started only after that. So when we see, there is a sequence of events. So historically, yes. So first of all, just summing up in 2 points. First of all, labeling cookies as an invader, as an infiltrator is wrong. They've been part of this land for long. Of course. And if you see the entire belt of Myanmar, South Manipur, and Mizoram, and up to Chittagong, so they are there all the time.
Understandable. Yes. Right. What exactly do you think is the reason? You said the trigger is forest law, but what exactly, in your opinion, is the reason for this? The violence for existing, for lasting so long. What more is involved?
Things did not start all of a sudden. Things were boiling for a long time. And I would directly blame 2 extremist Meitei groups called as Arambai Tengol and Meitei Lipun. So if you see the statement of the leaders of these 2 groups, they have been making aggressive statements, aggressive and fierce statements. Anybody will come to our land, will kill him, will kill him out, will weed out infiltrators. All the enemies of Meiteis will be killed. So these kind of statements are coming out. Even in an interview, I've got few of the interviews of Pramod Singh, who is the leader of Meitei Lipun. The statements are very, very ferocious, aggressive, and directly instigating violence. So things were developing for a very, very long time. And these 2 groups, Arambai Tengol and Meitei Lipun, were the ones involved in looting of weapons also. So it happened in all an organized way. So they might have planned, okay, since the violence has already been instigated by cookies in Turbung, let's take this opportunity and now weed out all the cookies once for all. And they had support of Mira Paibis. There are hundreds of videos available online where these women folks are escorting these armed terrorists to the cookie villages. Hundreds of videos are there. Recent incident which happened yesterday, I was very shocked to see this. There was a village in Sagang area. Sagang is in Bishnupur. So in village, a guy called as David. I'm sure there would have been a clash between cookies and Meiteis. So in which one cookie was killed and 3 Meiteis were killed. Meiteis, they cut the head of this boy, cookie boy, and hanged it on a pole. Such brutality was not even seen with Islamic State videos in Middle East. So this kind of thing will happen. And some photographs were circulating on social media where bodies, the burnt, completely charred remains of few bodies were visible. So if you see this kind of thing, the kind of hatred which is being developed, and till date, the worst and worst thing which is happening is that all the videos of Pramod Singh, all the videos of the leaders of Arambai Tengol are available online. Not even a single person has been arrested. Pramod Singh is still roaming freely in Imphal, is still instigating the violence. So there is a direct role of the government of Manipur. See, if I'm an army officer, I'm holding, I'm in charge of an armory of an army unit. If 1,000 people attack my armory, I'm supposed to stop them. I'm supposed to fire at them. Even if 10, 12, 30 people die, it doesn't matter because I'm supposed to save my armory. Here, nothing happened. Not even a person was slapped. Armory gates were opened. They were given to the people. Then ammunition magazine gates were opened. All the ammunition were given to them. People didn't even register FIR. FIR was registered next day when things became public. So there has to be a larger conspiracy. Manipur police officials were involved in this. Again, I'll tell you another incident when first set of violence started in Torbung in Churachandpur. Majority of the Manipur police officers are Meiteis. Of course, DGP is a cookie, and out of top 10, 3-4 are cookies, but the ground officers, most of them are Meiteis. So when this violence started, they came out and they started firing at the people. 38 people died in that firing alone, which also had cookie women, cookie children, everything. 38 people died in that firing. So when violences take place in cookie areas, you are firing at them. When the same violence is happening in Meitei areas, you are not even firing anything, you are just leaving the way. Another example of Sugnu. In Sugnu, a mob of about 5 to 6,000 attacked 40 cookie villages. 40. I've got the list of all the 40 villages. Each and every village has been burned to ashes. Not even a single house survives. All 40 have been burned to ashes. They attacked these 40 villages. And when they were burning it, Manipur police detachment was already present in Sugnu. What they did, they dug up the road and they deployed themselves at the road. On hearing the news, Assam Rifles sent their detachment from Chandel. So when Chandel detachment reached Sugnu, these people didn't allow that to move out. Police did not allow them to move out. Police said, no, you will not move ahead. You will not go ahead. They kept on holding the Assam Rifle detachment for 7 hours at Sugnu. By the time all these 40 villages were burnt, people were killed, and no data is available. It is not at all a riot between the two groups. See, same again in Sugnu, these Manipur police people were directly aided by the women folk. I shared a video yesterday where the women folk are telling Assam Rifle people कि आप यहाँ से नहीं जाएगा तो हम कपड़े उतार देगा.
ऐसा कुछ करने की जरूरत नहीं है. आप लोग जाओ ना. आप नहीं जाएंगे तो हम कपड़े उतार देंगे. आप लोग जाओ. अम्मा हम ऐसा.
When they came to search for weapons, the weapons which were looted, so they were searching a village for weapons, and when they reached to the entry point of village, the women stopped them. Okay, you go from here. You will not search here. आप नहीं जाएगा तो हम कपड़े उतार देगा. So this kind of tendency which is happening, it is wrong. And there's nobody who's controlling it. There's nobody who's even saying a word about it. See, bigger issue is not the ethnic clash between Manipuris and cookies. The bigger issue is those 6,000 plus weapons which have been looted. Manipur government has not yet issued a list as to how many weapons have been looted, from where they have been looted, and what are the whereabouts. Nobody's talking about the role of Mira Pipes in abetting the terrorism. The way they liberated those 12 terrorists who were responsible in 2015 ambush on
Army, because
6
Army
Dogra.
recently posted a video on them.
Yes.
Except
so they liberated them from Army's clutches. So that means they are, and it is a open truth that it is the Manipuri group, Meitei groups, who have been fighting a war against the government of India for long. Cookie groups are not fighting a war; they are all Sioux groups, and Army has already verified that all the weapons of Sioux groups are intact. See, it doesn't happen that way. All the suspension of operation group, when a Sioux is signed, they are supposed to be keeping their weapons in a container, which has got a double key lock. One key remains with the Sioux officials with Indian government, and one key remains with the commander of the respective Sioux group. So they're not supposed to take out their weapons. After the violence broke out, all their weapons and all their containers were verified and found to be intact and correct and not opened.
And Sioux groups are cookie dominated.
Sioux groups are cookie groups. So on one side, we have got Sioux groups who have not yet taken out their weapons. And on the other side, we have got Meitei groups who have got now access to about 4,000 to 6,000 sophisticated weapons, and who are also being guarded by Mira Pipes, the women folk. So question is not of infiltrators or original settlers. Question is not of Christians versus Hindus. Question is not of anything else. Question is versus who is pro-India and who is anti-India. Who is waging war against India and who's hosting the tricolor at his home.
So from what I understand, and in your own article, you had explained that some percent of Meitei is not even Hindu, right?
Exactly. So Meiteis are not even Hindus. So if you see a total of overall percentage, about 25% of them are Muslims. They call themselves Pangals, but they are Meiteis. They use the same title, they use the same thing, so they are Pangals. a large number of about 20-25% of them are Christians also. They also use the same name. So their name will be, say, Lashram Ajit Singh. It will be the same name, but he will be a Christian. So there's no difference in the name. A third category of Manipuri, the Meitei, is Sanamahi. Now, Sanamahi is the original ancient religion which these Meiteis have been following. And they call it, they've got a god called as Pakhanba, and they've got their own rituals. So they follow the, like tribals also follow, some of the tribals also follow the old naturalistic religion. So similarly, these Meiteis also follow the old Sanamahi religion. So when you talk about Hindus, peculiar Hindus, I can say about 30-35% of overall Meiteis are the ones who are Hindus. Rest all of them are either Muslims or Christians or Sanamahi. So see, when you talk about Manipur, the question is not of religion. Question is community. Irrespective of being from Christian community, Pangal community, Sanamahi community, or Hindu community, all Meiteis are together. They are together as a Meitei. They are not together as a. The religion is not the one which is connecting them. It is a community which is connecting them. So drugs, yeah, we talk about the drugs. See, you have to see, when we talk about drugs, you have to see the peculiar geographical location of Manipur. So Manipur is part of the Golden Triangle, which is spread into Southeast Asia, Myanmar, Thailand, Laos, and so on. And tribals, especially Kukis and Zaus, they have been growing opium for a pretty long time. Not now. They've been growing opium for since maybe British's time and all. Because they stay in hills where there's no source of livelihood. They do the zoom cultivation. I've seen the villages where they're not even able to grow rice enough for their, and so they have to get some kind of money. So they do this kind of opium cultivation in the border areas. And if I talk about 20 years back, almost 20 years back, so the pattern was like they used to grow in the border areas, and the dealers used to come from Myanmar and they used to collect the opium and go back. And they used to make, say, if I say that time in 2004-5, these guys used to make about 3,500 rupees per kilogram of opium, which is actually a pretty cost, barely sufficient. So they were being exploited. Now what happened? These terrorist groups, whether they are Naga groups, NSNIM, NSNK, or whether they are Manipuri groups who are fighting a war against India, so they are based in Myanmar. And all these Manipuri groups, UNLF, PLA, PREPA, KCP, all of them, those who are fighting against government of India. And when recently, 2 years back, when there was a military junta in Myanmar, they developed very close relationship. So there are some reports which indicate that this nexus of drug, it is quite big. Although cookies are cultivating it, but the big share goes to the Manipuri politicians, bigger share goes to these terrorist groups, and this drug money is a major source of income for these terror groups, because otherwise they don't have any money to fuel the fight against the government of India. So they're getting it from drug business, spending it over there. So it is a bigger perspective. Labeling only cookies as drug peddler is wrong. Indeed, they're growing it, but you have to see a holistic view. Who are buying it? Who are converting this opium into heroin? Who are actually involved in the overall drug trade? Where the money is channeling out? So these are things which need to be answered. At that same time, we have to understand, see, after the military junta came in Myanmar, the role of Tatmadaw in drug business has increased a lot. They have been involved earlier also. But after they became, see, when the military junta came in Myanmar, the international aid, international trade has stopped. So to get money for their own sustenance, they need to grow, get involved into drug trade. And it was not the cookie groups which have got friendly relations with Tatmadaw. These are Manipuri groups, UNLF, PREPA, KCP, PLA. They are the ones who are hand in gloves with Tatmadaw, not from now, for last 20-30 years. So when Myanmar military, Tatmadaw is growing, is involved in the drug trade, you can very well understand that who all are the direct or indirect beneficiaries.
So do you see any China angle in this?
See, there could be a China angle in perspective, because China has been quite close to the military leadership of Myanmar. At that same time, India is developing that Indo-Myanmar Thailand highway. So Indo-Myanmar Thailand highway is a very, very big nightmare, going to be a nightmare for China. Why? Because as of now, all the ASEAN markets are flooded with Chinese goods. Because why? Because India cannot send its goods directly. It has to send it via sea route, go via Strait of Malacca, and then reach these places. Transportation cost is very high. If this highway is made, which will invariably pass through Manipur. So if this highway is made, there will be a direct threat to Chinese interest in ASEAN. Indian products will be sold at 30 to 50% cheaper rate in ASEAN than the Chinese products. So there is a direct threat. China will lose that market. So we cannot rule out a Chinese influence, because the way money has flown in, the way people have started doing it, the way so-called social leaders have emerged from nowhere and started delivering all sort of fairy statements. The way these two militia groups, Arambai Tengol and Meitei Lipun, have emerged. See, these kind of such big groups, which claim of having more than 20,000 volunteers, they cannot work without money. Who's paying for them? Somebody must be paying for them.
Absolutely.
20,000
It cannot be
volunteers cannot.
organic.
So they go in black jeans, they go in black t-shirts, they go in black printed shirts, they have got vehicles. So those kind of things is
Money is
not possible.
flowing in, yes.
Money is flowing
You're
in.
right.
And certainly it is either the drug money which is flowing in, or it is the money from China which is flowing in. That, of course, central agencies must investigate. But again, the question is why central agencies are not being allowed to investigate. Recently, I reached at MPTC Pangai. The Mirapabi didn't allow them to go inside for investigating the theft of weapons, the looting of weapons.
Which agency was it?
CBI, Central Bureau. See, when these weapons were looted, central government took a cognizance, because the number of weapons is about 6,000.
Yeah.
They were looted from Manipur Rifles headquarters. They were looted from one of the training center of Manipur Police in Tampangai. All these weapons were looted. And immediately they sent a team of investigators from CBI to Imphal to investigate on this issue. So when they reached MPTC Pangai, Manipur Police Training School, so they were greeted by about several thousands of Mirapaibis who didn't allow them to move in. They were not even allowed to go inside. So investigation is not even started. So you have to understand this part. How the NSA, why how the central agencies can carry out their investigation? Somebody has to allow them, no? So it is a state-sponsored issue. Somebody has to contain this Mirapabi menace. Somebody has to contain this government menace. How the way government is openly sponsoring harboring terrorists. I would tell you an incident in 2004. Our team was behind a very well-known and very notorious terrorist who was expected to come into Indian territory from Myanmar. We followed him, and we got to know that he has gone to a village. That village also was the ancestral village of one of the minister of that time. He was in cabinet. We kept tracing him. We couldn't trace him out. Of course, minister's house we couldn't trace. We couldn't enter a minister's house. And then we saw the minister moved out with a cavalcade to Imphal. Later on, we got to know that this terrorist was sitting with Money Minister in his own car. So that is a kind of involvement of politicians with the terrorist. Another incident I'll tell you. Another unit, not my unit. They caught the finance secretary of KYKL. They caught him with a pistol. They caught him with money, and after they caught him, as per rule, they were supposed to be handing him over to the Manipur police. So immediately after catching this guy, Manipur police reached their headquarters. They said, "Okay, hand him over to us." And then Manipur police kept on saying, "No, this guy is not that same guy whom you arrested. You arrested him on wrong cause. His name is something else. He's a altogether different guy." They took him to the headquarters, and by evening they released him. They said that the person whom was actually not the same guy whom you never naming. He was somebody else. So we checked his identity, and as per his identity documents, he was somebody else. So it was a case of fake identity. Whereas Everybody was sure. The guy accepted that I'm the same guy. So that is the kind of political police nexus is there. In Manipur, police, especially Meitei officers of Manipur police, have been openly accused of supporting the terrorists. So that's what I'm saying. And when we are talking about the Chinese angle, again, I have a strong suspicion that there is a Chinese angle, because if you stop things in Manipur, if you create unrest in Manipur, the process is entirely stopped. If the vehicles are not able to move out of India, they will never reach Thailand. They will never reach Myanmar. So continue having an unrest. So it could be the part of a larger plan where they are releasing about 6,000 weapons to the terror groups. It's huge. You can understand, if 6,000 terrorists are available in Manipur with the sophisticated weapons, the kind of trouble they can create. And this dream of Indian government can never materialize, of having Indo-Myanmar Thailand highway.
Absolutely understandable. Sir, what would you suggest is the solution? And would you like to touch upon AFSPA? Should it be brought back? And what,
Yes.
in your opinion, is the solution?
Yes. So the biggest problem as of now is, number one, those 6,000 looted weapons. And number two is this Mira Pai menace, the way women folk are creating trouble. So I suggest, first of all, the government should declare a presidential rule in Manipur, so that the political interference in day-to-day matters is stopped. At that same time, they should impose Armed Forces Special Power Act in entire of the Manipur, so that security forces can carry out searches and recover these weapons at their own will. Thirdly, they should induct maybe 3 or 4 battalions of women battalions of, we have women battalions, CRPF and other reserve forces. They should be sent to Manipur so that they can act against these Mira Pipes. Because women can only be controlled. You cannot, if you see, I've seen it myself. You go to a village, catch hold of a terrorist, these women will come and start removing their clothes, start snatching the weapons of the security forces. So as a soldier, you see they are removing their weapons and they start saying this guy has raped us. Somebody will click a photographs. So this kind of embarrassing situation can only be avoided when you have all women forces controlling these Mira Pipes. So you have to move maybe 3, 4 or 5 battalions of women battalions of RAF or maybe CRPF to these areas, and give a free hand to the security forces, central security forces, not Manipur police. So I think
Absolutely.
if these things are implemented, maybe we'll see the peace, and at the same time involve the community leaders, because Kuki or Meitei, both of them have to stay in the same state for long. You cannot carve out 2 states. Kalko Naga log, tomorrow Nagas also will ask for a separate state. Then Kukis also have got different kind of tribes. There are Zaus, there are Paite, there are Gangte. They will also start for separate zone for them. So it is not possible. Everybody has to stay together. So it is better the community leaders come and chalk out their own plan.
Absolutely makes sense. Thank you so much for your time, Major Amit Bansal. And I'm
Thank you.
really glad that you put it out in such brusque manner that nobody can question it. You know, you've backed it with data. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.